Here we go. College Football Payoff Podcast. We are in week 10 of the season, so episode 11 on the year for us.
Episode 48.
Overall,
total.
That's big country. I'm Dan. We are back again this week. First week of the official college football playoff rankings. I know you've said in the past that you don't really look at week one. You don't care to see those rankings because it's going to change. One thing I will say is it is setting up again as a way to get as many SEC schools into the top four as humanly possible. Tennessee jumps everyone, goes to 1. Georgia's at 3, and Bama's at 6. And then Ohio State's 2, Michigan's 5. Who's 4? Clemson.
Yes.
Okay, so that's setting up. The way I see it is if everything stays, Ohio State still has to play Michigan. Loser of that game is basically out. SEC championship game still has to be played. So it's, whoever's in that game, the winner obviously is in, but I can see with Ohio State, Michigan playing each other, Bama squeaks in at 5, then Bama sneaks in. It's just another way to get as many SEC schools in there, but again, we really don't care. Big thing is Tennessee jumped to number 1. They do play Georgia this week, so that's a 1 versus 3 matchup. It was 1 versus 2, but 1 versus 3 matchup. We talked throughout the week. I wanted to put them on my card. I wanted to play them, but I ended up sticking with all Big Ten games this week because last week was a little rough. Last week went 1 and 2. We both went 1 and 2, so we were 2 and 4 as a podcast. But overall, we're 57% across the board. I'm 20 and 15 overall, which comes out to 57%. 17 and 13 for Big Country. He's 57%. The podcast is 37 and 28, also 57%. So yeah, we're above that 50%, that golden standard, creeping to 60. Feeling good about this week. Get a 3-0 week.
It's a tough week, but I'm going all Pac-12 this week.
See, I think when it starts to become a tough week, you go to the conferences that you're kind of that we know. Yeah, and you're accustomed to and all that, which for me is the Big Ten. Quick recap of last week. Only win on my card was TCU minus 7.5 against West Virginia. That was a wild cover towards the end there. I had losses. Oklahoma State plus 1.5. We'll just push that away, never talk about it again. And then Ohio State minus 14.5. They rattled off for like 28 points in the fourth quarter and then gave up a late touchdown, ended up winning by 13. So 1 and 2, not bad. As long as you get at least one win out of that week, we're good. Do you have your recap from last week?
Yeah, I went 1 and 2, like you said. Had Wake minus 3.5. They were up by a touchdown, or up by 1 point at halftime. Man, I just got I took the bait from Vegas and learned my punishment there. Mm-hmm. I mean, Sam Hartman just had a terrible game. I had Iowa minus 11. That was never a doubt. That was probably my most confident pick of the week, and that cashed pretty easily. And then, I don't know. I had the under 56.5 for Georgia, Florida. That was just, I don't know. I should have never given that pick out on the pod. So it's all good. Right. We're going to counter that under with 2 overs that we got this week.
There we go. All right. So there's a recap. Let's just jump right into this. I know we want to get this going. Would you like to start? You want me to start?
I'll let you start this week.
Cool. All right, so we're going to talk about Big Ten. On my side, we got Michigan State against Illinois. This is at Illinois, 3:30 kick on Saturday. And right now, Michigan State's just a team that's going down fast. They don't seem to have too much going for them, while Illinois is trending up. What are they this year, 7-1? Yeah, they've won 6 straight. They're 7-1. I think they're ranked now. Big thing here is I think Mel Tucker's kind of lost his team a little bit. Last week it looked, the beginning of the game against Michigan, like they were going to come in and put up a fight. Michigan just swapped that real quick. But the big thing in that game was after the end of the game, at Michigan there's only one tunnel for the players. Michigan State was coming off the field. A Michigan player ran in, a fight ensued in the
Assault ensued.
Yeah, it actually was. I know Harbaugh wants to have criminal charges pressed, but anyways, stuff happened, and they ended up having some players suspended, so that was ugly. And Peyton Thorne last week, 215 and a touchdown, and 155 of those yards were to one receiver. I think if that ever happens, the next week that defense is going to key on that receiver. I just don't see Michigan State having much to work with, especially after what happened at the end of the game last week. Also, we have 8 injuries, all on the defensive side of the ball. No, 8, not injuries. I don't know why it's in the injury section. 8 Spartans, all on the defensive side, suspended because of that incident. So defense not looking up to snuff. Illinois, on the other hand, they're trending up. It's the Brett Bielema show. They have ground control. They have a 21st ranked ground attack, 7th ranked turnover differential in the country, number 1 ranked scoring defense, number 1 red zone defense, number 4 ranked pass defense. They have a lot of penalties per game, but I think Illinois is trending in the right direction. Michigan State is not. They're in shambles. I think the big matchup in this one is going to be in the backfield. Like we said, Illinois 21st best ground attack in college football against the 118th ranked run defense. That's a mismatch of huge proportions. Michigan State's 0-3 against the spread on the road. I think this is easy. I'm going to take Illinois at home with the minus 16.5.
Bielema ball.
Yes, sir. All right.
For my first Pac-12 lock of the week, we're going to take it to the Oregon-Colorado game. This Oregon team has completely turned around what their season compared to what I thought it was going to be week 1 when they played Georgia. And if we just take the Georgia game completely out of or all the statistics for Oregon, all the scenarios, they would definitely be a top 5 team here. So if they didn't have to play Georgia, metrically, Oregon is a top 5 team. What do you think the least amount of points, if we take the Georgia game away where they only scored 3 points, what is the least amount of points this offense has scored in a game this year?
21.
41.
Holy.
They're putting up numbers like Ohio State.
Yeah, that is big.
So the least amount of points they have scored in a game this year is 41 if we take away Georgia. And they just so happen to be playing one of the worst defenses in the country this year, or this week in Colorado. So Colorado in total yards out of 131 teams in the FBS, at the FBS level, Colorado ranks 130th in total yards allowed. They are dead last in rushing yards allowed, second to last in points allowed, and they're 120th in takeaways. So I think we can get maybe 50 plus, maybe a 52 piece out of Oregon here. And that's why I'm going to over 61.5. Now we know Colorado's offense is just not that good, like whatsoever, but I just see this as a game where Oregon is going to get up. They're going to get up quick. Maybe we can look at a little bit of Oregon first half here. Maybe I should have made that the pick, but I like this over 61.5 because I think Oregon's going to end up benching their starters here midway through the third quarter. You're going to have a lot of backups planned here, a lot of development building for players who don't get a lot of time. And, there's not much to handicap when it comes to Colorado. They are 1-7 on the year. Just a low production value on offense and defense, evidently. But I just think there's going to be a quick spurt of points here. We know Bo Nix is going crazy this year, which is actually really good to see. I was a Bo Nix hater at the beginning of the year, but it's pretty undeniable. He's got over 2,200 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. That's the shit we like here at the College Football Payoff podcast. Good quarterbacks, and he's definitely doing it. So I just feel pretty good. There's not too much outside of to handicap outside of a really good offense with Oregon and really bad defense for Colorado. Hopefully a couple short field turnovers and explosive plays get us here quicker than we need. So I think over 61.5.
Yeah, if Oregon doesn't hit that on their own, which I think there's a shot that they can, I still think that second half when you have Oregon's backups in the game, we could see Colorado eking out at least a touchdown, maybe. Something to
one
add
last
to
thing here is that both of these teams individually are both 6-2 to the over in every game they've played this year. So a collective 12-4 to the over between these two teams. I think that's just another good sale point for this lock.
Awesome. All right. My next game number 2, Big Ten. We're going to talk about the Michigan Wolverines against Rutgers Scarlet Knights. So the first game, we talked about Michigan State, Illinois, one team good, one team bad. This game, Michigan Rutgers, we're talking about one team good, Michigan, one team, I wouldn't say bad, but coming off a bad loss in Rutgers. They were road underdogs, but they still got shut out on the road last week against Minnesota, while Michigan, dominated Michigan State last week. The thing with Michigan is, yeah, we know they're undefeated. We know they've covered the spread in three of the last 4 overall games. Quarterback J.J. McCarthy, he's not big on the stats. He's accurate. He doesn't have crazy eye-popping numbers that throw you for a loop. But the one thing with Michigan is they have probably the best running back in the country in Blake Corum. He's 100 yards rushing in 5 consecutive games, 1,078 rushing yards. That's about 6 yards per carry for him. The offense as a total has scored 30 points in 6 of their 8 games this season, and their defense as well. They've given up 17 or fewer points in 4 consecutive games, and that was including 7 points last week against Michigan State, where they only gave up 250 yards of total offense. Michigan's good. All right, they're 8th against the pass, 3rd against the run, 5th in the college football playoff poll. We talked about that. 4th in the top 25. But because Michigan's scoring 41 points on the season, which is 8th in the country, they're also limiting teams to less than 12 points, which is 3rd. I mean, Michigan's pretty damn good. Now we flip the script. We talk about Rutgers. They've only had one Big Ten victory on the year, and that was beating up Indiana a few weeks ago. But last week, 14-point underdog on the road against Minnesota, lost 31-0. Rutgers started high. They were 3-0, but they've had 3 different quarterbacks playing this year. So when you don't have a set quarterback, that kind of throws a wrinkle. So people say, all right, no set quarterback. They got to be able to run the football, right? That's where we have a problem. Their leading rusher, Samuel Brown V, out for the remainder of the season with an injury. So they have a sophomore come in, and he has, 200 yards total rushing on the year. Their offense has been tough, 13 or fewer points in all but one of their Big Ten games. It's just about Michigan here. We got the spread set at 25.5. They've won by at least 21 points in 6 of their 8 games. Rutgers is just spiraling downwards. Spread is, the spread for Rutgers against Ohio State was 39, and Ohio State handed them that loss. I think Michigan is right up there with them. Michigan's got that elite defense. We know Rutgers has basically a non-existent offense. Like we said, non-established quarterback, running back on the shelf. Michigan's only given up 82 yards rushing per game. So if they don't have a quarterback who can throw, Rutgers is in for a problem here. I think Michigan's trying to make a statement as well. I think they win this by at least 4 touchdowns. I think this is pretty one-sided. I'm taking Michigan minus 25.5.
Yeah, I actually had them written down on my looks when I first looked through the board every week. I wrote Michigan down, and talking about making a statement, I think this is a big week for teams to make statements with the first college football playoff rankings being released. Michigan's very live to make the playoff. And I mean, they're just a win over Ohio State away from being in the top 4 officially when it comes playoff time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, they're going to do everything to hold on to that, and even if they go with, I don't think they make it with one loss to the playoff this year.
No.
So they have to make a statement wherever they can, and maybe they come out firing after all the headlines last week about the assault in the rivalry game. So I think I like that pick a lot. But okay, I am going to come out with another team that needs to make a statement, and that's the UCLA Bruins. They are very live to still win the Pac-12 this year. Mm-hmm. I think it's a long shot, obviously, to make it to the playoff. But if you're a head coach, you're not letting your guys know that. You're telling them all week that, man, they got us in the top 15. 15th place is the highest anybody's ever climbed to make it to the playoff. So UCLA is live for that, I guess, and I just think they bounced back pretty well last week. So they were the talk of the town after beating Washington and Utah back-to-back, both top AP top 15 wins. But then going to Oregon and losing by 15 the way they did, I thought this team was going to be down and out, but they did recover pretty well last week with a 25-point win over Stanford. And I think they continue to roll. They're playing a team this week in Arizona State that's completely down, completely just out on the season. They're pretty close to not becoming bowl eligible, and they've struggled pretty badly the last few weeks. So 2 weeks ago they ended up losing to Stanford, who has absolutely no offense, by 1. I did have Arizona State that game +2, so they did cover. But they also almost let Colorado win last week, and Colorado only has 1 win, as we just talked about earlier in the pod. Emory Jones, their starting quarterback, has really done shit all year. 5-4 touchdown to interception ratio. But, I mean, this is more of a fate of a bad team with a really good team. I mean, I just love picking teams that are trending upwards, going against teams that are trending downwards, and I think this price is pretty cheap at -10.5. DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, quarterback for UCLA. He should be able to do whatever he wants this game. He almost has 2,000 yards passing this year with a 17-3 touchdown to interception ratio. So taking really good care of the ball and performing well. And that Zach Charbonnet at running back has almost 1,000 yards in the year with 10 touchdowns. So he's going to look to break into that 1,000-yard rushing club this week. DTR is going to continue. I mean, he's one of the most experienced quarterbacks in the country, and probably one of the most winningest quarterbacks in the country at this point in his career. I just think it's going to be a pretty simple, pretty easy cover. One speedboat going against a sinking ship. I love taking these games. So
I like
UCLA -10.5.
I like that. That's a good phrase.
One speedboat against a sinking ship.
I really like that.
All right.
That was good on you, buddy. All right.
Oh, and then one last thing. UCLA is 6-0 against the spread their last 6 November games. So knowing Chip Kelly as a coach, this is the time where his teams usually peak. So just another little tidbit of information for you to take UCLA this week.
Yep, I love those trends. All right. So that's been kind of the theme of the picks today, has been good teams against bad teams.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, at this point in the season, a lot of bad teams are just giving up.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of those guys are thinking about transfer portal. A lot of these teams aren't making bowl games anyways, so like people are just trying to get to the offseason, and this is when a team that's sinking really gives up on their coach.
Yep. So that's kind of like we said, that's how we're looking. And my third and final game is going to be more of the same there. It's Ohio State against Northwestern. We all know Ohio State, right? They're a juggernaut on offense. Their defense has actually stepped up big time this year. They're trending up, but we know Northwestern, probably one of the worst teams in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 120th in scoring offense, 112th rushing the ball. They do throw the ball pretty well, but they're ineffective in the red zone. They're 113th red zone efficiency, 112th in turnover differential. They're 23rd. They don't get penalized, which is to be kind of foreseen, because we know that they've always been a well-disciplined team. Their coach is always well-disciplined. 71st in scoring defense, but They're terrible against the run. I think that one right there, 112th in the country against the run, is going to do them in this week. For Ohio State, we know, you got C.J. Stroud with every receiver known to man. Jackson Smith and Jigba I don't think he'll play this week. He's had that hamstring. If I know anything, I think he'll probably not play the rest of the year or maybe sit out until Michigan. But you still have guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., Cade Stover, Fleming, Julian Fleming. They're going to be fine. Running backs, Mayan Williams has burst onto the scene. He got hurt last week, but Travion Henderson is still a well-endowed running back. So I think whoever's running the ball has a day against this terrible rushing defense. Northwestern they do suit up well against the pass, but they haven't seen a passing attack like the Ohio State Buckeyes have. It's almost like they're playing a different game out there. I mentioned that Northwestern is ranked 53rd in passing offense, but for this game, something to be aware of is starting quarterback Ryan Helinski, questionable, still with a concussion that he had 2 weeks ago. So usually when you have a concussion that's more long-term, it's not looking good that you're going to play in a game against a defense like this. Could be something to look at here. But with the spread at 37.5, I think the Buckeyes, they come out, they get their points on the board, and I still think the Buckeyes' second string will be able to put up points. But let's talk about how big the defense stepped up for the Buckeyes last week. JTT for Ohio State, Tuimalalali had an absolute day. Forced fumble,
the guy was fun to watch.
Yeah, he had that pick six it was like he had stickum on his hands. I think their defense is rolling, but I think big thing here is Ohio State's going to run the ball. They're going to run it down their throat. They're going to get some turnovers. It's going to be an ugly game for Northwestern. And also, you threw in a trend at your last game. I'm going to throw in one here. 7-2 against the spread in the last 9 meetings are the Buckeyes against Northwestern. That's the biggest mismatch. So I think this is another no-brainer. It's Ohio State minus 37.5. Get this and move on.
Nice. Okay. I might play like a first quarter or a first half with that game.
The first half probably, yeah.
Yeah. But for my last pick, 3-3 in the Pac-12. We're going to go with this Cal USC game. Again, with the college football playoff rankings coming out, the college football playoff committee or whoever they are gifted USC a pretty clear path to make the playoff. They are going to have to end up beating Oregon in the Pac-12 championship, but they're a top 10 team right now. And I kind of disagree with that. I think USC's defense is absolutely abysmal. This defense is a team, or this team is just a team that is fully relying on their offense to win them games. Giving up 37 to Arizona last week, even though Arizona can't score, is pretty unacceptable if you're the 9th-ranked team in the country. Just lost 2 weeks before that to Utah by 1 in overtime when the defense blew it for them. The defense let Arizona State hang around in their game a month ago. So this defense is just really not that good. But we know that the offense is the bread and butter in this team, and the offense is what will get them into the college football playoff. And I think Lincoln Riley's going to take advantage of that this week, mostly because he has, in my mind, I think the best quarterback in the country. A lot of people will disagree with that, but Caleb Williams with almost 2,400 yards through the air, 24 touchdowns, and only 1 pick. I think he should be talked about more in the Heisman race. I think their strength of schedule is the reason he's not. And I also have a long-term Heisman ticket on him, so I'd like for him to be talked about more. But he's going crazy this year. 24-1 touchdown interception ratio, like we said. He is going to be lucky to be facing the 126th ranked passing defense in the country this week. If USC wants to prove that they belong in the college football playoff, they're going to have to start putting up like Oregon type scores or like Ohio State type scores. So this is a great opportunity for Lincoln Riley to put a 50 plus on the board and say, hey, we're here. We deserve to get a shot here at the playoff, because, you know, if they get down to 5 or 6 and you have them against, they'll probably beat, you know, an undefeated Big 12 team if TCU stays that way. It'll be down pretty much between them and Clemson, possibly undefeated Clemson, or a one-loss Clemson versus a one-loss USC for that 4th spot. I think Lincoln Riley knows that, and he's got to do everything he can to make the committee realize that this offense should be in the top 4. So I just think they let it fly. Cal has had some pretty bad offensive numbers this year. They cannot get the ball going on the ground, but on the bright side, they are a top 50 passing offense. So, and led by Jack Plummer, who is former NFL quarterback Jake Plummer's son. He has a 13-5 touchdown interception ratio on the year. He commands the offense like okay for a Cal team. So, you know, I just need a few touchdowns out of him. Couple points here, maybe quick off a turnover, or at least throw a couple pick sixes. You know,
yeah.
But the one thing about USC, and this hurts their defense a lot, is that their offense moves so fast that their defense doesn't really get a chance to get a break. So hopefully by the second half here, end of the game, Cal can get a couple scoring opportunities, and we can get over the 60.5 here.
I like it. All right. Hey, that was easy, right? We stuck to 2 conferences. We picked games that you got upward trends, downward trends, and I think this is a solid. Don't want to toot our own horn here, but I'm seeing 6.
I feel good this week.
I feel really good. All right, let's get a quick recap then of the games. I had Ohio State minus 37.5 against Northwestern, Illinois minus 16.5 against Michigan State, Michigan minus 25.5 against Rutgers. 3 teams trending up, 3 teams trending down. I see 3-0 right there. All right, what did you have?
All right, Big Country Week 10 locks. I got Oregon, Colorado going over 61.5. Of UCLA covering the 10.5 versus Arizona State. And I have USC Cal going over 60.5.
There we go. All right. And then I will give this. I found a nice college football quarterback from back in the day. Great name. Not for a quarterback, but just a great name overall.
John David Booty.
I do remember John David Booty. No. Quarterback from Virginia Tech. He was drafted 26th overall in 1999 by the 49ers. Jim Drunkenmiller.
Great name.
Yeah, see? He wasn't good. He had 2 years with the Niners. They shipped him off to Miami. They released him the year that he was signed. So, Jim Drunkenmiller, quarterback, Virginia Tech. All right, you want to hit him with the socials, then we'll get out of here?
Yeah, follow Dan on Twitter at dposk13. Follow me on Twitter at Big Country Bets. Most of all, follow the pod at CFP_pod. Most of all, like, subscribe, share, rate, review. Share.
Share it. All right, yeah. Find us wherever you can. Get us out there, and we will, hopefully after this 6-0 week, we can continue to pump them out for you. But
let's keep those percentages high and cash some tickets.
We're over 50%, all 3 of us. Me, Big Country, and the pod. All over 50%. So you got nothing else. I see you pushing the mic away. All right. I'm Dan. That was Big Country. We will see you next week.